Meeting called to order. Today is Monday, April 23rd. It is now 6 p.m. Fiscal 19 budget workshop.
Councilman Licciardi?
Here.
Councilman Messier?
Here.
Councilman Padula?
Here.
Council Vice President D'Amico?
Here.
Council President Goslin?
Here.
There is a quorum.
The mic's on?
I don't get the mics. The mics.
They're on. There is a quorum. Budget workshop. Do you want to speak to? You have,
Did you do a roll call?
I just did.
She did before the mic's, remember?
The mic's run.
I didn't say here. It's
Yeah, you did.
You said here.
Yeah, you
All right.
did.
It's already a long day.
Okay.
Maybe I did. Mr. Manager, any updates?
Well, again, just the process going forward. Again, tonight is the final budget hearing, budget review, and then decisions will be made. Tomorrow, the finance director will make the necessary changes and prepare the budget to be submitted to the town clerk for inclusion on the May 1st agenda for the review of the and approval of the budget resolution. At the same time, she will be sending the disclosure information to the state to get a heads up on their review, because they have to review the calculations and formulas. So she'll be sending that in anticipation of the council action on May 1st. And again, formal approval will be solicited from the municipal affairs once the budget resolution is adopted. Then the taxpayers, notice to taxpayers and the budget summary will be placed in the newspaper, the Kent County Daily Times, on May 4th. And the financial town meeting will be May 15th, and, which is Tuesday, and Thursday would be the voter referendum. From the last meeting, the finance director sent a list of some of the items that were discussed with the council as possible items to review for changes or additions. And one of the items that was sent also was, as we went through the revenues, the motor vehicle the motor vehicle revenues were increased after the budget was submitted based upon the work that was being done by the assessor. So that was a plus. We at the same time, the assessor has also been working on tangible properties, and he's estimating at the present time that that's going to be less than what was submitted to the budget. So it's almost going to be a wash. He's still reviewing that, and again, so we had a gain, and then we had a loss of revenue for the those classifications in the property taxes. So with that, sort of where we stand right now, and again, I guess we're off to the final review.
So, I know one question I asked you last week upstairs was how much we'd have to cut out of this budget for a 0% tax increase. Can you give us that dollar
Yes,
amount?
I believe it's approximately $2 million.
Anybody from the council? As you know, as town manager just said, $2 million. Does anybody have, we've gone over some things last week. I know, Jay, you were out of town.
Yeah, I'd like to, I just want to get clarification for, Freddie had given me some of these numbers for the, bringing back the bulk pickup to the town. Was there specifically one of these that we had decided we were leaning towards? Just
We didn't go over any of that. We're
Okay.
gonna go over that tonight.
Okay.
If
That was definitely something that I'd be interested in doing.
So we had 145,570, just my quick notes. That was from workers' comp insurance. So we had to decide what we wanted to do with that. We had discussions of certain positions possibly being cut, so we can go through and talk about that. I just want to point out one quick thing, and I don't know if any of you have a plan to cut $2 million out of a budget to make 0% tax increase, but doing quick numbers, that is 20 to 26 positions in the town of West Warwick. I don't foresee that happening, so I'm just pointing that out now. If you had to cut positions to cut that, that's what that would be. Is 20 to 20, depending on what positions. If, per se, if they were municipal, it would be 26.66 positions. Police and fire would be about 20 positions, if you went by individual departments. So I want to point that out. Jay, do you have any suggestions or plans?
I do have a few.
You want to share them?
Well, first of all, tonight, I've been looking over this for the last 3 weeks. Any proposed cuts that I make tonight is for budgetary purposes only. It has nothing to do with, if it comes to employees, has nothing to do with anybody's job performance, anyone in particular. It's based on efficiency. And the thing that really bothers me the most is we had to find $4 million over the past 6 months in this current budget. So I think in some areas we need to clarify. One of them, and this isn't in any order, I'd like to fold the $5,000 stipend for Parks and Rec into DPW.
Say that again, fold.
I mean, eliminate it. And have the assistant director assume those duties, which they're pretty much doing right now.
Okay.
I'm gonna use the word fold again. I'd like to fold the tangible tax person, his 75 days, into the tax assessor position.
What's the dollar amount on that?
I'm not sure, I think it's like 10. 10,700. 10,700. Thank you. Keep going?
Yep. I
I'd
want to go
also-
individually.
What's that?
I said I want to go individually.
All right. I'm looking at, Parks and Rec proposed for $55,000 in overtime. I'd just like they need to justify where that $55,000 is going, because that's a person. And what things I've been hearing all year is where we only have 3 people in the department, and I get it, we're undermanned. But then when I proposed part-time people to cut in, to using that $55,000, then we don't have 2 part-timers, now we have 4. So is this really about the help that you need? And if it is, just justify that $55,000, because I don't see it. So if Freddie's here,
I don't think he's here. What do you want to see it cut down to?
well, I'd like to have a conversation, have Freddie come up and see where that
Freddie,
50,
I did talk to Freddie, he's coming today, so I don't see him out here, but.
and we could wait on that, but
All right, I'll put
I'm not
that-
looking for a dollar amount on that. I'm just looking to justify where that $55,000 is going.
All right, next.
The other one that we talked about was the HR position. To cut that into I'm looking at a 24-hour-a-week position, which would be roughly 3 days a week. And this is based on efficiency only. It's budgetary items only. And I don't have a dollar amount on that per se. That'd be something I'd like to discuss here tonight. So
Alright.
that's all I have.
Jay?
I'd like to discuss, and, I mean, again, we should maybe wait till Freddie comes here to discuss this one. I wanted to discuss the bringing back the,
Your mic's not working.
hello?
That's bad.
Bringing back the bulk pickup to the town. I mean, just from looking at some of these quick numbers, even on a conservative basis, if we had more guys, we'd still be saving $500 a month. But on a higher basis, we could be saving up to $1,500 a month by bringing back bulk pickup just to the town. And in addition to saving money, I think most of us have concerns where if there's a couch that needs to be picked up And they do a great job with setting up the bulk pickup, but if it happens now, the next bulk pickup isn't until another 12 or 13 days. If it comes back to the town, we can easily send somebody out there to get that cleaned up right away, plus we're saving money. And the way it looks like Freddie has it lined up is it could be like first, for these numbers, first and third Saturday of the month, which we'd already be doing now, but through Mega, but now we'd be having our own guys there. And also, I know some of my constituents have complained in the past, I know you've got this from the past day, but people want to go down there on a Saturday to drop off some stuff. We'd have the ladies and gentlemen down there 2 days a week, so it kind of two birds with one stone, and we'd be saving, looks like about $17,000 a month, a year, $17,000 a year with that, just bringing it back to the town. And I know we're still in the middle of the contract, but I think it's something to explore in a couple of years about bringing back trash to
So
the town.
there's a couple of questions I have on this that when Freddie gave me this paperwork was, right now, we're open on the first Saturday of every month anyways for drop off and whatever it may be. So the questions I had was, if you bring this back in, I just want to ask about the foreman and secretary and the recycling coordinator. The recycling coordinator does the job now of scheduling, but if you bring this back in, that is now the secretary's job. Just want to make that clear. So does the recycling coordinator need it?
Yeah, and I had that conversation with Freddie as well today, and there are other positions that position entails other than just coordinating the pickups.
I'm pointing that out, and I want to know if the foreman and secretary have to be there on the Saturday during pickups.
Well, that's why, because I looked at a few of these numbers. The first,
And that's a union question, I think, that you were supposed to
Right.
check into over the past few days, because we had that discussion last weekend.
Right.
Or was it?
because it looks like he has numbers here with or
Friday,
without the
Friday.
foreman.
When we open on the Saturdays at DPW, who's there right now?
I can't answer that because I'm not down there, so just wait for Freddie to show
Yeah,
up.
maybe we should wait and come back to this.
All right. Anything else, Jay?
For right now, that's it.
John?
So, first of all, I'm not interested in cutting positions at this point. I think, well, I shouldn't say completely, but to lose 20 to 26 positions, I think that would impede safety, especially when it comes to fire and police. I am concerned, or, interested in whether or not we need the tangibles collector position. I don't see why the tax assessor couldn't handle that. It's $10,007. I would like to see that reallocated. I would personally like to see money go to the people who serve on the committees. We have multiple committees that meet throughout the month, extremely knowledgeable people giving up their time month after month. The planning board and the zoning board are currently paid at $50 per evening, but we have other boards. For example, housing's only paid $25 an hour. And then we have some that are not paid at all. We just,
Not on a meeting.
a meeting, excuse me. We just put the tech committee together. These are remarkable people, extremely educated, experienced, and they're giving up their evenings. We have the juvenile hearing board. We have the recreation board, which I would assume is met at some point.
No, not yet.
Not yet, huh?
No. We're gonna go
I
on.
just
We're
think
gonna
that
go on for a year.
if we're paying the people on planning, we're paying the people on zoning, that these people should be earning the same amount of money. It's nice that they're giving up their time, but it almost seems unfair that they don't get paid. So some are paid and some are not.
How many boards are not being paid? That's the question.
So juvenile hearing's not being paid, the tech committee's not being paid, I don't think rec gets paid. Housing right now, I think they're earning $25 per meeting, and I know that the Housing Authority had its issues, but they've come a long way. Under Steve O'Rourke and the board, they've done some amazing things in the last year. I went to their annual meeting last week, and I was very impressed. I think it's only planning and zoning who are being paid. So I'd like,
Canvassers are paid.
and the canvassers,
There's
they're
different
getting
things.
25 an hour, is that correct, or per night?
No,
The
they're
chair
50.
gets 50.
Are they getting 50? The
No,
chair?
the chair.
The chair does.
What's the rhyme or reason why some are getting paid,
Well,
some
that's
are getting
part of my
paid less,
question,
and some
like-
are not getting paid at all?
Some is by statute, some is by the home rule charter, some is by council ordinance.
Well, the chairman, I could tell you, the Board of Canvassers brought that before us the last
Last year,
last
fall,
year,
yeah.
and they were talking about how the chairman has to go to, especially during elections, had to go to court, had to do certain things, spend an extra time. So at $25 extra a meeting wasn't burdensome,
Right.
I'd say.
It just seems to me that these people have volunteered, they're giving up time away from their families, some of them are giving up time away from part-time jobs, and I feel that they should be compensated.
Anything else?
No, not at this time.
Angelo?
Well, we're at the 11th hour, and I'm not going to keep reiterating. Every time I propose a cut, where it's not 5,000, 6,000, we can't get a straight answer. We're about $7 million in the hole and counting. We're using sewer plant money for our daily operations, which is the enterprise fund, which I have my own opinions on that and my own facts. Believe it or not, that's how we're running our operations. If anyone on this council ran a business and was running in a deficit, whether it's 1 million or 7 million, you try and correct the deficit and not go deeper and paying more people, which a lot of people deserve to get pay raises and are not. A lot of the workers are doing double for less. They're doing twice as much work for less. And there's other people that are doing nothing for more. Again, it's not personal. I'm a lifelong resident, 6 generations in this town, 3 businesses, very successful businesses. Not because I want to eat steak every day. Once in a while, you have to eat beans. If the people of this town knock down this budget, ask this council, what do you do then? The same thing we should have did at the beginning. The contracts most definitely have to be open where have more weight on one end than the other, than the people on the bottom that are always getting less and doing more. It's great to pay all these people, and I understand what you're saying, John, but instead of paying more people, I think we should start taking away from some people, because it is a voluntary member. They're not taking the job for $25 a month or $50 a month, and we're talking pennies. We're in a mess right now, and I don't care what anybody tells you. I told you this 4 years ago, but I was wrong. We didn't go 4 million in a hole. We went 7 and counting. So anybody that thinks that we're in good shape, if this budget does go, what happens next year? The inevitable. There's gonna be them drastic cuts. You're gonna have to do more for less. You're gonna have to work with more staff. And this is what the experts get paid. This is what the town manager gets paid for. This is what the finance director gets paid for. It's what the tax assessor gets paid for. This is a part-time job for us, although it hasn't been. So on part of my constituents and the constituents of the town of West Warwick and the taxpayers and the business owners, they cannot afford another hit either. So it's all well and good. You want these certain department heads, you want to run it, oh, this one don't do it, that one don't do it. We did it before. Where's the money? Where did we fall off track? How do we correct it? Not keep kicking the can down the road. I want to see a plan where they say, you know what, Angelo, we're going to gain 2 million this year, 2 million next year, 2 million the year after, and we're straight. That's not happening. And I don't care what they tell you. I had experts look at this. We're in serious, serious trouble. It doesn't go in the paper. It doesn't go anywhere. The taxpayers are blind of all this. And I, for one, am not going for this budget. I brought out how you cut it, some parts to cut it, some is contractual. The contracts have to be opened. Jason, I go along with Jason, what he says on some things. And he don't follow me, and I don't follow him. What we follow is our brains. Where is this going? If you make a budget of $2,000 a month in your home or your business, you don't go spend $4,000. You can't do it. It's unsustainable. The pension funds didn't even begin yet. You guys should be screaming and yelling about these pensions. That's your future. It's not happening. You can't have somebody 42 years old retiring at $6,000 a month. It's unsustainable. So this is where every one of these council people, including myself, the town manager, the finance director, and an expert, that I've been saying we need an expert in here, whether it costs $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, we're broke anyway. Get the advice on how we're gonna go on the right track. It's not raising taxes. It's not taking away from DPW or our municipal workers. We're 8 square miles, guys. Enough's enough. So I'm gonna end my spiel at that. They can say, some people can say I'm picking on them. I have a reason to pick. I'm not picking on them. I'm picking on what they do and how they do it. And I still haven't got answers from what I requested. I'll end my speech at that.
What have you requested?
I requested a lot.
Okay.
Oh, I'm gonna reiterate what I already told you.
Just tell me, you don't have to reiterate, just say what you requested.
Eliminate HR, number one. You can't be having all these promotions and upgrades when people are getting nothing. When you got people making 100,000, 80,000, 90,000, and people are making 30 and 40 and doing 2 jobs, they're getting disgusted. I don't know if you hear the word in town hall. They're not doing what they used to do. And they're not going to, and I don't blame them.
Manager, you have something to say?
Yes, I want to respond to some of your statements. First of all, the $7 million that you mentioned. Back in June 30th of 2012, the fund balance was approximate, unrestricted, unassigned fund balance was about 5.8 million, somewhere around there. And in these 5 years, it has gone down to $217,000. Now, the reason for that is a combination of things. It is revenues that are budgeted not coming in, expenses that are budgeted that are overexpended, and a combination of the both. Each of those years, the fund balance has gone down. The fund balance has, unassigned fund balance, has made up for those shortfalls. And that's where it is. Now, a comment was made, where can you find what happened? Well, if you take the audits, they go sequential. You can go through and see where it has gone down. There's a chart in the audits that says, that lists what was budgeted and what the final result was on revenues and expenses. So there is a trail of what has happened, and the bottom line has been the town has been using the fund balance to pay bills for the reasons that was said. So it has gone down, so that's a correct statement. From about 5.8 to $217,055 as of June 30th of 2017.
Ernie, can I interrupt you for a second with a question on that? There's only $217,000 left. The only way, that's it. We can't tap into this anymore.
Right, that's what's remaining.
Try to build it.
So at that point, there is a trail of where funds were. If someone wanted to take the time and a lot of effort, you can track the fund balance going down and what was overspent, what was underspent. What was overspent in revenues, what was underspent, what was under-received in revenues, and overspent in expenses. So it's there. Funds were spent on, I'm sure, appropriate town expenses, whether they be, capital expenses. I know the Civic Center was brought online, and I believe the funding was from the general government to fix those items. So a variety of expenses were made, and again, if someone who has the time and inclination, there's a trail there. So the money was spent on town functions. So
Ernie,
For the fund balance.
let me ask you a question, and you just got here, so I'm not pointing my finger at you. When we hire a town manager and a finance director, aren't they supposed to let us know that we're running deficits, that we're in trouble before it's too late? If they worked for a regular company and not a town or a municipality or a city or a state, and they did that in Gillette, would they still have their jobs?
Well, I will answer it this way. There is a obligation that the town manager has and the finance director have to monitor expenses and give appropriate advice as needed. That's a responsibility that we have.
I have no more questions for you, thank you.
And a few of the other items. So that's with the fund balance. So that's where, the fund balance arrived at or went to. And
Ernie, I just want to clarify two things with that fund balance that, and no fault of three members of this council that weren't here, but the previous administration with Councilman Giroux and
Kenny
Kennahan and Tucker. After all said and done, our budget passed in 2016. And then the council decided to take the exemption for the elderly exemption and go to $10,000 versus a flat rate of $180, I think it was, to $10,000, which would make them a few hundred dollars more per year, which helped all senior citizens, which that was our goal at the time. But there was also a $300,000 expense with that, which came out of the rainy day fund also. Was not physically approved by this council, but the council approved to take the money, and there was no.
No, it was, because Ed Giroux was the one that was
But
the big.
there was no, again, there was no resolution to it, Councilman. So that's why I'm saying, there's no record of that, so everybody seems to forget about that 300,000.
Nobody forgets about 300,000.
300,000 times 2 years now, we're 600,000, where that was not that was not brought in part of our budget. It was not done properly.
Nothing was done properly.
But that's.
And
that's
who
what-
supported, other than 5 councilmen, who supported the manager, the finance director, where the same thing? You can't get any voted on. You can't get anything productive done, because they're friends. So how many votes does it take to knock something down, or to make a resolution or an ordinance? How many, Council President?
That resolution was 5-0. So don't sit there
And
and say
I,
that.
oh no,
you
I
voted
went for
against
that.
it.
You bet
Yes,
your
you
life I
You went
did.
for it.
I'm a big boy, I admit to what I did.
I'm not-
But I also told you that we were getting bullshitted. And everybody looked like they looking at the headlights, a deer in headlights. Oh, no. Oh, no. Well, here we are, people. Here we are.
a few other points. What is the plan going forward? The budget that was presented, the 19 budget, is a balanced budget. If that budget is adopted, then unless something extraordinary happens, you'll have a balanced budget without having to do the measures that were done using fund balance or having to do drastic cuts after the budget's adopted. So the plan going forward is to present a balanced budget that is equal. As we said, during this process, we've come to you a few times with updates to the budget. One was good, the motor vehicle revenue was good, and the second one was the tangibles are lower than expected. But the budget is balanced, and unless something unforeseeably happens, there will be no need to do any type of remedial plan, which would be the first time in many years. The question about there were not sufficient cuts or many cuts in this budget, there are very few. In order to fund what we needed to fund, the budget had to be increased to make up for some of the shortfalls in budgeting in FY18, whether it be overtime for police and fire, because that's a bill that would have to be paid. So there were many items that had to be increased. Liability insurance, the workers' comp, things that were bills that sufficient funds in 18 weren't available to pay. So that's all included in the 19 proposed budget. Revenue shortfall. The revenue shortfall of the prior year taxes that we budgeted 1.7 million. It was budgeted at 2.2. The prior year, I think it was 2.4. I think historically, maybe it got up to 1.8 million, but it was too high. So when we budget less, again, that's more revenue that has to be made up from some other area. In order to balance the budget, it would have required, for the zero tax increase, as was said, a dramatic change in the type of public services that the town would ever see. And quite frankly, that is something that I was unprepared to do in presenting the budget. My goal was to present a balanced budget based upon the current services that the public has. And if there is a decision to remove those services, so that was the appropriate forum for the council. The question of opening contracts. The contracts are expiring June 30th of 19. That's the place where negotiations will take place to resolve or bring up some of the issues that we have with our structural contracts. To expect the contracts to be reopened before that, I don't believe was going to happen. And with some of the issues that we've been having, it clearly would not have happened. Because you have to have two parties to have to agree. The town and whatever union. So you have to have two parties willing to reopen contracts. And quite frankly, from a union perspective, there is no incentive to do that.
Let me ask you a question, Ernie.
You have wage reopeners, and that's what these contracts call for.
For what you foresee, you're a finance guy. Because you have no cuts, you know whether it's this year, next year, there'll be more. So all we're doing, you're balancing the budget this year. We're already fourth highest in the state. People, if you looked at the Times, you see the people losing their homes for tax sales. More, 3 pages. What is happening is the property values, they're selling because you got a $300,000 house, they're giving them away for $235,000, $240,000. The people that worked hard all their lives for their homes and their businesses, depreciating the values of their homes because no one wants to come to West Warwick because of the taxes, number one. We have 40 businesses in my little circle where my business runs. They're hanging on by a thread. They're gonna be vacant lots. I understand that there's always someone that's gotta pay taxes on it, whether it's the banks or someone that buys the place. But what I'm gonna ask you, in 2 years down the road, can you guarantee that no cuts will be made?
Well,
The way we're going?
what my belief is and the expectation is that the FY20 budget is going to be very critical to the town. That is where our contracts are expiring. That is where, you know, the town and unions will be working together because you're required to negotiate. And that's where a lot of decisions will have to be made, which will be critical to the town going forward. So it's a piecemeal step. And from those negotiations, you know, we'll see. And I mean, there is an interest on the part of all parties to negotiate contracts that are fair to the taxpayers, the town, and the unions. So we have to get to that point when the contracts can be opened up and negotiated. And I think clearly everyone knows that, you know, there are significant issues financial in the town. And those issues will be discussed, will be addressed, and hopefully there will be settlements with the town and the unions to move forward so that we can still provide the basic services that the public expects at a reasonable cost. Will there be a zero tax increase in FY20? Maybe, maybe not, probably not. But if we're on a road to looking at the significant problems, financial problems, and leveling those out or working to reduce those, I think that's the plan. I mean, it's hard to say, I won't say there's a 3 or 5 year plan, because it's a series of 1-year plans, and adjusting those 1-year plans based upon what we have to deal with. At this point, we have contracts, they're negotiated. The only requirement is a wage reopener, and we're in that process. Next year, at the end of this year, probably coming up sooner than later, negotiations will start, and then we will see where they develop. But I do believe that everyone has a vested interest in arriving at contracts that are reasonable to all parties, so that we will continue moving forward. And that's what my intent is to move forward. I can't develop a 5-year plan, I can't develop a 3-year plan, but I can tell you that what's coming up is critical for the upcoming contracts. So that's what
We have no growth to depend on. You're not gonna see enough growth for our expenses. So therefore, I'm no rocket scientist, like I said, I'm no mathematician, but I know how to count dollar for dollar. This gets worse every day. Every day. There is no cuts whatsoever in this budget. No cuts. And if you look through them, we pay some of our department heads more than what we paid department heads before. And it's my apology, I had it all written down, but everything running around today,
Sure.
I forgot to bring it. So we have regular municipal workers that are getting nothing, and we have department heads that there are $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 more in their salary than the previous.
Well, I believe all the salaries, well, could be wrong, all the salaries have been level for the administrative people, possibly with an exception of a new employee coming in. But I'd also point out that, again, the non-union employees and directors, which really aren't that many, that's their salary. Their subordinates, in many cases, make more than what the department heads make. So, I mean, that's also a factor that is there, and which is real, that employees do have the ability, unionized employees, for overtime, whereas the directors don't. And I would say that probably most, or many directors make less than the people that they supervise.
Because they don't have a chance to get overtime.
Correct. That's how their
And
jobs
they
are
knew that
structured.
when they signed on.
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay, so what I got here, and now I think Freddie showed up, I think I see him in the back. Is he here? Hey, Fred. Fred, can you come on up? We got a couple of questions about bulk pickup, recycling coordinator, foreman, and secretary. So Fred, we got your numbers for the bulk pickup. Kristen, have you gone over these numbers? Have you confirmed these numbers? Yeah. And they're pretty straight on? Okay. So the question I have is, if we bring this back, bulk pickup, there's a recycling coordinator that does this scheduling already, but based upon your contract, it says that that is the secretary's job. So at that point, what do we do here? That's one question, because if that recycling coordinator is doing that job, I know what's gonna be filed shortly afterwards. So I'm asking that question to prevent that expense. Second, why would a secretary have to be there on a Saturday if we're doing bulk pickup? And why would a secretary have to be in the office per se?
Well, on some of the,
And a foreman, I would guess, because he's
some of
overseeing
the,
the employees, but.
on some of the numbers, she wasn't there. But, on the most value you're gonna get would, be on the same days that we do, the Saturdays where the yard's open in the back, because that money's already.
Which is the first Saturday.
Right, the first and the third, which is, because that's already been, budgeted. So that's where you're gonna save you most money because they're already in there.
Who's already in there? Who do you have on
The
Saturday?
secretary, the foreman,
So that's my
An
question,
operator
why
and-
does
and
the
labor.
secretary have to be there on Saturday?
because she's gotta check in people that, come in for all the drop-offs.
That's,
Well, but you're saying if we do those first and third Saturdays, she's already there anyway, so. it doesn't
Correct,
make a
and it's already been in the budget for that.
Because I see that's the number where we save 1452,
Correct.
a month, yes.
1452 a month, correct?
And again, so my
She-
next question is,
She'll check in, like everybody that comes to the window for a drop-off, and she radios back to see what's coming in.
so my next question would be, if the secretary is doing all the scheduling for bulk pickup, can you tell me what the recycling coordinator is doing?
She's doing all the yard, all the recycling and all the garbage stuff, with all the bins and all the garbage. She's a relay woman for in between us and Mega. So she's in charge of all the problems, and she does everything else. But I mean, she does a lot more than just the bulk. It ain't just bulk that she does.
All right, that's what I'm asking, because that was specifically pointed out to me,
Okay.
that if you bring this back, that work goes back to the secretary based upon your contract.
Correct.
So I want to point that out, so nobody's surprised in the end.
So again, who do you have on a Saturday that's in?
The secretary, the foreman, the operator, and the laborer.
So essentially, we would just need to call in
So-
four men to pick up.
Man,
If we're gonna go with
Let's
two
just clarify,
trucks, right, two on a truck?
This number right here, so when it says driver, laborer, those are the 4 extra people in addition who would normally be there?
Correct.
Okay.
And that's 4 hours, you're saying?
Yeah, that one's at 4 hours. Yes.
8 to 12, whatever it may be.
And then also, if we do this, correct me if I'm wrong, like if it's a Tuesday and we're like, listen, somebody put a couch out there, Freddie, can you send somebody over there? We would be able to do that, and if that happened now, right?
Yes,
Just
correct.
as normal day-to-day.
Correct.
Not to say that should be, it shouldn't be
It might not
be
be done.
practice.
shouldn't be abused, but in a
It all
situation.
depends. I mean, obviously, if we got a lot going on, it could be the next day, but it'll
Correct,
be done.
but like right now, Mega doesn't come until, I believe, the first Saturday of May. So you'd be waiting 12 days.
Correct.
Whereas now, we wouldn't have to wait 12 days. You could, hey,
We'll
Freddie,
be done
in
within
addition-
at least 3.
you know, and now,
I'll say by the most, so we picked up by 3 days.
now I know as far as like finding properties, we would still have to wait as far as that goes, but if it's a situation where it's like, listen, I mean, I've had situations where you don't wanna sit there and leave a couch out there for days and days
Yeah.
and days and days.
It's about a $17,000 a year savings if we bring it back. Does council have any issues with that, bringing that back? Jay?
No, and the work goes to our men, correct?
Jay?
Extra 4 people.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree with that.
Angelo?
I don't have a problem with saving money.
John?
Yes.
All right, and I agree.
So that would be
So we can look at that, but that would also start July 1st.
July 1st, yeah.
So that you want me to reduce the rubbish contract line by 17,000?
As long, and that's the other thing we gotta just verify with Mega, what that contract states.
Right.
Because that was something we added later, after the contract was done. So we just gotta confirm that and what goes on there and let them know that we're not gonna use them for bulk pickup anymore. So if that's the true savings, yes, I'd expect to reduce it by 17,000.
Want me to put that in now?
Yep. Yeah, and also get that in writing from Mega. That way they're. Cleaning and zoning.
I'd like Noons, but I'll give you his contact information.
I think any other questions for, Parks and Rec?
Yeah, I do. Freddie, put in for 55,000 in overtime for Parks and Rec. Can you just justify that?
Yep. Figures the one folder I did not bring. As of the last couple of years, you see that it kept going over, so I just tried to put a little more in just to, just to cushion the blow.
But my question's more,
Oh, because it's
Why
all
is it
for
going
summer.
over is the question.
Because in the summertime, where all the ball fields, where all the games going on, I mean, games run late and stuff like that. And then sometimes, you have extra snowstorms where he comes in and plows, but it's mainly in the summertime where he's on the fields.
Why can't you do
Day.
it, why can't you do it in the morning?
With games, Angelo,
Yeah, you-
with
be-
games,
oh, 'cause the
they
games
get
run
the
late.
fields ready. For instance, far as cutting grass, that's fine, but they do maintain Amby Smith and McCarthy and Ray Silva.
So if a game ends at 9, why do our guys have to stay from 9 to 12, or 8 to 12, or 6 to 12?
I don't think-
6 to 10.
You have a guy who works 3 to 11.
Yes, yes.
And that guy, his schedule.
If he's
shouldn't
not
be
in,
overtime.
if he's not in,
So it
if he's
shouldn't
not
be
in,
overtime.
No, he's
if he's
not
not in,
overtime.
somebody's gotta cover, and then they gotta cover the rain dates too, which is a big one.
So we have a 3 to 11 guy, is that Tuesday through Saturday?
Tuesday through Saturday.
So, in his games on Monday night and sometimes Sunday, one thing I know they've tried to stop doing is the holiday games.
Yeah.
Because even though, I know I've stopped it, Memorial Day games, even though it's the most popular weekend for baseball.
I had to say no a couple times this year already.
I know I stopped Memorial games because of that, so we didn't have to bring people in to maintain the fields or whatever it may be.
What do you maintain during a game?
They don't do what, like Coventry, they actually do the lines, they do everything. They scratch the field afterwards, they maintain the field.
If
So
something
after
happens
each game,
during a
they're out
game-
there dragging the field.
if so-
McCarthy, for one reason, is because they don't want any, McCarthy and Ray Silver, especially since they had them professionally done, they don't let anybody really drag them fields.
So we're groundskeepers
Correct.
for McCarthy and Ray Silva.
They're not, but in
That's-
between games, they're out mowing, they're doing other things.
Yeah,
I'm
weed
down
whacking,
there, like.
checking garbages.
They'll drag the field line, next game's 2.5, 3 hours out. They're not just sitting there watching a game. They're going out and doing other work, like they'll cut the soccer field, they'll cut another baseball field. They'll
Why
cut
can't that be done during the week?
And there's other,
Sometimes you're cutting twice a week.
No, I understand the whole
but there's other
concept.
games in, there's other games in the facility too. There's all the girls' games. There's Cal Ripken.
No, I understand the concept of it all. I've been involved for a long time. I just don't know how it can't be done. I'm just saying $55,000 is a lot in a short season. It's a lot. It's a person. It's a full-time person, $55,000. So if you were to hire part-time people, like Mike, I don't want to micromanage this,
Yeah.
you know, but I just think we could either save a lot of money with a few more part-time people, or schedule it a little bit differently. That's just a big nut.
Well, I think they do more than what you think. I think you should go down there and.
But
and
explain
see.
to me, what is it? Like, I'm not understanding this.
There's always garbages around. There's 5 fields down there that are constantly being
Not
used
just
during the
there.
day.
You got-
Yeah.
Not that's
You got
it. I mean, it's
Amby,
also
you got-
Natick.
I know.
You know, so they're constantly running around. And if there's something happens to the mound during a game, you know, it's got to call somebody back. That's 4 hours. You only,
But
so
why are
somebody
we?
should be there.
But
There's
why?
also only 3 people.
But
right?
what? Wait a minute. No, there's more than that. But why are we responsible for? It doesn't work this way in other places, and not just Coventry. It's many other towns. This is something unique. That's all. That we're there and we groom all the fields all the time. That we line it, we drag it after every game. A lot of municipalities.
That's only 3 fields.
A lot of municipalities, though, they do this during their Monday through Friday,
So
and prep. And not all municipalities prep the game. Prep
I
the
want to
field.
point out, they prep the high school games, they prep other games.
There's only 3 people down there.
No, but they only prep 3 fields as far as for the leagues, and not even for the leagues. Ray Silva, because they put $20,000 into that infield, almost $30,000 into that infield. McCarthy and Amby Smith. Those are the 3 that they drag and get ready for the schools and other leagues. Amby Smith is only for the high school. They don't prep for any other league.
So does the high school have anyone that can do
No.
field prep?
Nope.
They must
they've
not
got
have the money
totally
for
out of
that. So the school department must not have the money for that, so we're doing it.
Yeah,
That's what I'm getting at.
And we pay for all the supplies too.
So we're basically paying for everything.
Correct.
Just doesn't make sense to me. and it's not about anybody not doing the job. It's about, again, this is a lot of money, and I think if we tighten things up, then
I'm not,
it
Councilman, I'm not disagreeing with your overtime statement at all. I do disagree with the amount of work they do. I know just this week
the work
alone-
has to be done, Dave. I get that, and that makes this overtime.
No, but again,
But
I just want to.
why are we doing all the work for everybody?
Well, I want to point out the concession, not the concession stand, the dugout on the girls' field, softball field, over the winter, blew off. The whole thing blew off. It was right behind the. They had to try to salvage, strip it down, salvage, put it up with DPW and Parks and Rec. They came in with a backhoe, put it up. Now that's work that they weren't even depending on. Now they got to put roofs on the little girls' field.
Right, projects
But-
happen, though. I get it.
But again, that's why.
On top of everything else.
No,
On top of
I get it.
maintaining. Like right now, I understand there's no grass cut, there's very little grass cutting going on. So they're able to do some of this stuff. But to get our fields looking the way they do, and I'll compare it to any community, there's only one other community I think that has an equal field to us, and that's South Kingston, as far as baseball fields.
Did you look at their budget?
Yeah, they're Parks and Rec, almost $3 million in South Kingston.
You see how big it is compared to ours, what they have?
Same amount of fields, Angelo.
Not the size.
A baseball field's a baseball
Oh,
field, it's the
no.
same size.
We obviously don't have the
It's
money
90
for
feet
it.
to each base, 360 feet out.
We obviously don't have the money for it in this budget, but how much money do you think we would save over the course of time if we got one of those big tractors to go out there and trim some, I mean, not just the bike path, but there's other areas that could be done with something like that, right? How much do you think we would save over the course of a few years?
Off my head, I'm not sure.
A
But,
decent
I mean,
amount?
I mean manpower, yeah. Along with manpower, I should say. But, I mean, I know there's no money for it now, but in the future,
Something
mean,
that
it
would
was
definitely
something we-
benefit those guys out
I
there.
definitely
and
look
we'll-
forward to it.
Personally, if you want to reduce the overtime, I'm fine with that, but I think that we need to focus on why there's so much overtime.
Well, that's what I'm asking, that's what I'm trying to ask.
And, well, that's a fair question, and I don't disagree with you on it, and I said, I don't disagree with you with the overtime.
What was the
I just
overtime
know
number
how
last
busy they
year?
are down there. I think.
I know
out
the
of all
work,
the councilmen, I spend the most time in those fields. Freddie spends a lot of time off duty in those fields, okay? We got an eye out. We do not see too much laziness going on around there.
I'm
I
not
can tell you
questioning,
that.
I'm not questioning that at all,
And
to
if-
anybody.
and
I know the work they
And
do
if they're
with,
coming in on Saturdays working overtime, I can tell you they're not sitting in a truck behind a building somewhere. I can tell you, you see them out there. And yes, do they get distracted once in a while where somebody wants to talk to them because, the league president comes up, starts talking to them, this is what we need to work on, this is what I want to work on. That does happen from time to time, but as far as getting work done, they get it done. We're getting a bang for our buck.
and
from this
I'm
dollar amount.
not questioning the work, I'm not questioning the level of work they're doing. It's more of, we just had 2 corrective action plans for $4 million. That's what I'm looking at.
Well, I mean, I just put it in there because it's been over the last a couple of years, and.
What was the overtime number last year? You have it listed at 50.
Yeah, I
64,600.
I mean, we got to keep an eye on that. I mean, it can't go over. Whatever we budget, whether it's 35,000, 55,000, whatever it is, it can't go over.
About 32,000 right now.
The budget.
But we're coming to the time now where they're probably gonna
Yeah,
peak time.
I mean, you might make it this year.
No, I'm saying, but this is the time between now and
Yeah, this
June,
is
we're
the
probably
busy season.
the busiest season,
This is
so.
a busy season.
Any other questions on that?
No.
And then you had the fold 5,000 for Parks and Rec.
Yeah, I'd like to fold that into the assistant DPW's work.
And where was that in the budget?
That
Where's it coming out of?
That's on page 32. This is department head salary.
Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, can live with that.
Your thoughts on that?
I don't have a problem.
John?
So what does this actually encompass as far as
So
what we're
whoever-
paying for that position?
so whoever
What-
did the
what is the responsibility
Well,
of?
whoever did the responsibility of it got a $5,000 stipend to do that responsibility.
Eliminate it.
So he wants, the council's looking to
And those,
eliminate
but those duties would be assumed by the assistant director.
still with no compensation.
Assistant DPW director.
I'm okay with that.
Okay. Take that out, majority of the council. HR position. You're good, thank you.
Thank you, Freddie.
Angelo has eliminate the position. Jay has it down to 24 hours. The town manager has proposed 40 hours and moving one person out of the department and moving over to his secretary. Am I correct, Mr. Manager?
Correct.
I want, and again, talking about the position. I personally agree with the town manager in a little bit of respect here because of the things that's going on over the past 2 to 3 years. And one was just the last budget hearing, when you sat here and told you that workman's comp claims are down, because we saved $140,000 because of our workers' comp. And that's kudos to the employees working safe, kudos to investigations, and whatever else goes on up in the HR department. Talked to most department heads. They all, Chief Barris, if he's here, spoke to me, and I'm gonna use him specifically. He said, absolutely, this position needs to be in town. This takes it gives a mutual party for the employee and the department head to deal with matters, and it keeps the town manager pretty much out of it. I know brief conversations with Chief McGarrett, he's felt pretty secure about the department. And department heads have said, this is a department that needs to be there for the employees. Now, there are other issues as far as healthcare, questions for employees, personal issues employees are having, they go to HR, okay? Now, people have brought up things to me, Angela, you brought them up in here about performance issues or whatever. That's not our job, okay, as councilmen. If a department head, employee, whatever, that is not our job to deal with performance issues. That is his job, and that's each and every department head's job, to deal with those matters, okay? But this position, by far, needs to be here. Now, whether or not dollar amounts, whatever it may be, is one thing, but this position needs to be here. I was an advocate for this, Councilman Giroux was an advocate for this, because we saw what went on here over the years. And, you know, not just what goes on behind closed doors, but also the presence in having employees being able to go in and deal with issues. It's good for the employees, it's good for the department heads, it's good for the town manager. I think it's good for the town all the way around. That's my spiel, but I think we should.
You know, you're only kicking the can down the road, because eventually, within months, it's gonna be eliminated.
Well, at this
Because
time,
you
I'm
can't
also in
afford it.
agreement, I would keep that position, based on, as you said, I've experienced the same, multiple people over the years, including the former manager, former councilman, said that they needed this position, that, you know, it took a lot of the responsibility out of the hands of the department heads, and it's only been an asset to the town. And of course, based on the manager's recommendation, it would seem that, for now, that position should stay.
So there's no workman's comp cases that are going on right now that could have been avoided. So you're just bringing up the ones that did.
Angelo.
How about the ones that were not?
I don't know the situations of any.
Well, you
workers'
should.
comp. Well, again, I really shouldn't. Honestly, the town manager and HR should be dealing with workers' comp claims. Could they be avoided? That's kind of a crappy situation you just said. In other words, the person's faking an injury because they don't like somebody, is that?
No, maybe something with, not to get into their medicals, maybe someone who confides in a council person. Let's use, for instance, maybe I got threatened or something that could have been avoided, and it continues. And I go see a doctor because I can't take it anymore.
Yep.
We all know about
And
that.
Angelo, now I know the situation you're talking about.
No, it's
And the
not
person-
one
wait a minute,
particular,
wait a
so
minute.
I use that for an example.
Wait a minute, I'm pointing that out. But that person you're also referring to.
I'm not, wait a minute, let me get the record straight. Don't think for me.
I'm not, I can't think.
I'm not saying one
There's no
person.
thinking for you, Angelo. The thing is.
No, there's not,
I know your situation, what you're talking about.
because I'm my own man.
Yeah, I am too.
Yeah,
But
I
again,
doubt it.
the person you're talking about, the other person's also on workman's comp. So now you got two people on workman's comp. So yes, I do know that situation. So now, how do you,
I don't
how
know
do you
what
deal with that?
situation, don't, listen.
I know
like
who
I'm
you're talking
saying.
about, Angelo. I'm not
I'm
dumb.
not talking about that, I use for an example, I use.
But I know the situation you're talking about, Angelo. So
You think you do, that's why you get in trouble sometimes.
Yeah.
Don't think. I'm a big boy, I'll tell you who. And maybe I'll bring it up tomorrow night, because I'm gonna get their permission.
all right. So my opinion, the position should be there. Jay, what's your opinion?
Part-time?
Yeah, I'm probably in between you and Angelo. I'm probably leaning with Councilman Licciardi for a part-time position.
Ernie, can you speak to that as to why you believe it should be
You already did.
40 hours again?
Yes, again, the current staffing is one full-time person and a part-time. The budget proposes to take the part-time position over to the manager's department as a full-time executive secretary. So that person, that department is going to be one person. And the types of duties and responsibilities that go with that department, whether it be, as was said, dealing with employee issues, dealing with collective bargaining issues, grievance issues, dealing with the mundane questions on Blue Cross benefits, there's open enrollments, there's situations like that, there's individuals who go out on MFLA leave, so there's always a constant flow of work to be done, as well as, I said, the grievances, responding to and reviewing various complaints, doing that type of review, being a part of, the meetings when we look at insurance coverages and things of that nature. So it's a constant, ongoing situation, a position that, again, if you look at trying to do something like that, again, on a part-time basis, let me get I have some notes here from the last meeting. Again, much of what's done is unscheduled. If you have an employee issue to come up, whether it be something that needs to be taken immediate action on, you have to have that available. The work is highly confidential, which remains to be seen. The position has to be knowledgeable in federal, state, and local laws, including labor laws, family medical leave, or anything of that nature. Ensure compliance with collective bargaining agreements. Assists and handles with responses to employee grievances. Recommends disciplinary action, reviews compliance issues with contracts. Coordinates all the internal hiring process, whether it be posting and all that goes on with that internally, as well as any external recruitments. That position does that.
What's the difference from part-time for the secretary position as opposed to being full-time now?
Okay. Basically, the position is part-time.
Now, currently.
In the manager's office, correct. And again, it's a very highly confidential environment. The executive assistant does if you want to say the standard, clerical work. Also is like the first line of contact for citizens with issues, problems, concerns, to identify what those are, and if they can be resolved by a director, then the call is forwarded to the director, or call is asked to
But
call
right
that
now, that
person.
secretary is
For
HR.
in my office, that's what they do. Also, maintains the records, the scheduling appointments, relays instructions to directors on my behalf or the town manager's behalf. So that's what's being done 4 hours or 3.5 hours a day.
Ernie, let me ask you one
And
question.
I'm still will tell you what the plans are for that. And since I've been here, I've been utilizing that position more and more and more, doing research, doing things of that nature, and that's going to continue. In prior positions, as a town manager, I used to have many kinds of spreadsheets and many kinds of reports. You know, after every council meeting, I would have a report of all the significant issues on the council, whether it be resolutions to follow up, follow-ups from the meetings. I would have all that documented on a report. And so we would determine what they are, responsible party, and any kind of inquiry, you know, I could say what that is immediately. We would have responses for similar with citizens' concerns. We'd have a similar report for those, so that we would know if a citizen's concern comes in, who is it referred to, and make sure that it's addressed. So a lot of more data-driven than we have currently, and probably has been done. So I have a lot of plans to expand the basic roles, and I've been doing that, a lot of research. And a lot of research will be necessary with upcoming projects and issues. So I see it very more expanded to what it is, so that it would be necessary for a full-time position. And I am not aware of many town manager situations that doesn't have someone there that's full-time. Even for the office load, half the time, you know, sometimes if I'm working, you know, people will come in, which is okay, but I can't really assist them, can't help them because I'm either working or in a meeting or something of that nature.
Well, this would be
It's
more
not a
of
very good flow right now the way it is, so that position that's over in benefits would come over, as well as assisting in some of the issues of benefit issues as well.
But it wouldn't be your full-time, it would be floating between HR.
Well,
and
it would be
correct?
mostly my position and assisting HR when available. And I would see it assisting HR, so I would say that's true. But I see more of a role for the manager's position in office. So at that point, then it becomes, okay, you have one person dealing with all the personnel issues, whether it be the routine things and whether it be non-routine things. So one position is definitely necessary for that.
Ernie, what would need immediate action where from part-time or none at all? What would need immediate action that's so critical that it couldn't wait to the next day or the day after?
Well-
What, I don't understand what
Okay.
would be
Well,
so critical.
Let's say, and I'm not going to say here, but in other positions I've had situations where an employee will come in some type of condition that has to be dealt with, that they're not able, it shouldn't be at work, shouldn't be there, issues would have to be
Well, in
well,
an
like a
emergency like that, I'm
disciplinary.
sure you're capable of
You
handling
know,
that.
again, well, again, if I'm here, if the manager's here, if the manager's available to deal with that.
Well, if it's immediately has to be taken care of, that would be a number one priority, I would hope.
Well, again, anything that's critical, emergency gets taken care of. It also affects the workload that is being done by the manager's office. You know, doing a certain amount of the personnel work, which would have to be done by the manager's office, will restrict the manager, whoever it is, the manager's ability to perform the functions that are necessary. In general, the more that's asked of individuals, the less effective they can become because they're doing more and more unless somebody's not doing anything.
We're asking a lot of other people in this town to do less with more, so I think, I mean, it's kind of a conflict of interest. I mean, I think if we're gonna ask them to do less with more, we should practice what we preach. It's my opinion, just one vote.
So, yeah, part-time, Angelo,
Part-time,
cut the part-time.
against my better wishes, but
July 1, 3 council members want part-time.
Okay, and Kristen, can you figure out the cost of that?
I did, it was $26,205.71.
Say that again, Kristen?
$26,205.71.
That's between, both of those positions?
Just HR, just the HR director.
Because the other one slid over to the town managers. So that whole dollar amount just went off to somewhere else in the budget, that's all. It was half and half,
Okay,
so that half went over to a hole on the other side.
okay.
Sal, one of your positions is on here. Tangible tax.
The gentleman that we use to do our tangible tax, that's all the money he receives. He doesn't receive any pension money, no vacation time, anything. That 75 days, that would now be on my back. That's 75 days that I would not have to do other things that would be bringing more money into the town. Looking for real estate, measuring properties, going out and actually visiting them, as opposed to probably getting plans and getting all the information that way. I know I've talked with Mr. Beatty when Tony first came on to do this job for the town, and the amount of money, the amount of businesses that he's found, and the money that he's brought in, it's like the gift that keeps on giving. Once you find them once, they're here every year. And he does an excellent job. He's been doing this for over 40 years. So he's got a lot more expertise in it than I do. It's that particular job. I know a lot of the assessors that don't have this person, they rely on the statements that come in from the different companies. Not all of them know how to fill out the forms the correct way, so you lose a lot of money that way if you don't know how to interpret forms.
So the question that was brought up, and I know you weren't here last time, was is he truly needed for the 75 days is the question.
Well, it's the amount of money. He can work.
Utilize his time? Like, in other words, who keeps track of the time that he's working?
We keep time in the office. He comes in the office. This part of the year, like January through April, a lot of that is spent going through all the forms that come in. I mean, he's only here maybe, 1-2 days a week doing, he comes in for a half a day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or maybe sometimes it's 4 days. The busier parts of the year, he'll be in more often than others.
How is it determined when he comes in? Like, it's just that as he feels?
I know, we've been doing it for 40 years, so, I just got here, I know when he's supposed to be here. He's been here, I've been here since November. He's been here at least 2 to 3 days every week during that time.
When you say days, you're saying is it a full day that they
No,
take?
no,
So it's half day?
like a half a day.
So it's 75 half days?
No, 75 full days, but that translates into 150 half days. You can't go out certain times of the day. Once the bills go out, he'll do a whole tour of the town. He'll go down every main street, every side street, verifying businesses that are still there, new businesses that have come in. Go into these mills, try to find businesses that have moved in that we don't know about. So a lot of times, it's internet, newspaper, things like that you find out about them.
Sal, do
But
you
to
have
actually-
a record on how much money he's brought into the town in a year? It should be easy to find out, right?
Find that out.
Compare it
Well,
to what he's getting to what he brought in. I would like to see that.
And I just want to double check, because I agree with what you're saying. The position pays $10,700 a year, is that correct? So it comes out to somewhere around $17 an hour, $18 an hour for the position, about 600 hours a year.
You can only work so
No, he
many
can work as many days as he wants.
Wow.
He worked for
But
the
it-
city
but
of
a- but a day
Cranston,
would
which
be
was in the
considered-
state pension system.
A day would be 8 hours, correct?
Right.
So 75 times
I think
eight
it's like
would be
$65 a
600.
day,
Okay,
somewhere around that number.
So it's actually $8 an hour,
yeah,
if he's here for 8
Yeah.
hours.
right. Which, if he is bringing in more money, and it's going to reduce Sal's work, we don't want to add to your work, but at the same time, we want to make sure that
Not just add to my
that
work,
the
but
position
not
is really
as-
truly needed.
Right, and not in as efficient way as he's doing it for the amount of money that.
And did you ask for a raise in that department?
He
that
he
line?
was looking for another $10, $10 to $20 a day, I forget what the number was. 20?
I'm against the raise.
Yeah. That was in my
what
part.
the assessor
The
brings in.
the manager's budget did not have that in there.
So Sal, right now, we're gonna keep this in, but we wanna see if you can get us a report within the next 48 hours.
We can do that.
To,
Sure.
figure that out.
Okay.
I'm sure you can tell us what he's done. We'll go from there.
We can do that.
Any other concerns with that?
Thank you.
Thank you, Sal.
Thanks, Sal.
We have planning, zoning, juvenile rec, housing, possibly getting paid. Kristen, if you can just run the numbers on that of each board, and who doesn't get paid and what the budgetary difference is. I foresee it's only gonna be probably 10,000, somewhere around there for all the boards, but we need a solid number if the council wants to vote on that.
I mean, I think at this point, I mean, is it really making a difference? If somebody gonna join the board for an extra $25?
That's what I'm saying.
Well, it's not that they're joining the board. I think they would join the board without the stipend.
Yeah,
But I think we have some committees that get paid and some that don't. But I can tell you, like, with the new technology committee, that we have people who are experts in their fields. And
Right.
they are, you know, extremely knowledgeable. And I feel like in the same way that people bring a certain level of expertise to planning and zoning, that these people deserve the same.
I agree from that
From that
From that sense,
perspective,
they
I mean,
probably
that's for
should
you
get
guys
paid
to
like a,
make that
like, they
determination.
should get paid $100 a time, but I don't think there's the money to do it. But I agree with you. I understand where you're coming from.
I wanna see a dollar amount to that, because
Yeah.
I'm fine with keeping it status quo until we know more. I understand what you're saying, Councilman.
I'm just
as
saying,
far
let's,
as-
let's consider it, think about it.
Because I asked the same question. I mean, I think, for that small little stipend, you get more involvement per se.
You know, I served on juvenile hearing, and I took it very seriously. I gave up my evening, I went. There was no pay, that's fine. I mean, we give up a lot of time, even as councilmen, you know how much time we give up. But then I would go to zoning, and, I mean, I didn't feel like I was doing anything beyond what I was doing at juvenile hearing in terms of my time and my expertise, but yet I get a check from
Yeah.
zoning. So I don't know, it just feels unbalanced.
I think it's something to be looked at, but maybe not.
Just
I mean,
consider
we
it,
get the
that's what
number,
I'm
but yeah.
asking.
All right. That's all I have on my notes except for library.
I was just gonna say, I do have a couple things that I didn't mention earlier that I wanna
Alright,
make
go
sure we talk about. I have mentioned that I think we should consider some type of raise or stipend for the librarians and the staff.
Mr. Manager,
Again.
I know you have a line item in here for possible raises in the general government, I think it's under?
Yes, it's under general government, the
Now
last
that
item.
was for police, fire, and municipal. Well, police is separate because they're already in there. But that's for municipal and fire, which you might be moving that over tomorrow in the budget anyway for fire. Now, the question I have, did you have library built into that dollar amount?
No.
So, there's a couple of other savings that we had in here.
Right.
145,577 for the workers' comp claims that the insurance went down. I mean, if you want, we can take that 145, take it right off the budget, or if you wanna,
You know, again, and please, this isn't against the library, my family uses it, it's a great asset to the community. We're at a critical point in this town right now. We're trying, Councilman Licciardi's trying to save $5,000. Councilman Messier goes along with us to save $26,000. And to give up $25,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000,
I'm not asking $50,000.
It
I
doesn't
think
matter.
that number's too high, and I know what you're saying. Maybe we
I
shouldn't
mean, this is
be
what got us
adding
into
to it.
this.
But listen, we also have to think forward. We have to think about, where we'll be in 5 years from now. And I think that we have to, in some way, appreciate what we have, and we have to, pay for what we're getting, and these people are underpaid. They've been
John,
underpaid for years. They
I
have
agree with
master's
you.
degrees. They're
You
making
can go right down the line and
$30,000 a
see who's
year.
underpaid over here. You can go right down the line.
Listen,
Most of them are underpaid.
I think the library is as far as underpaid is probably the lowest of the.
probably one of the lowest in the state. And listen,
think it is.
You know, I think the 50,000 obviously is not reasonable. I mean, that's too much for us at this point. But even maybe a stipend of some type, 1,500, 1,000 per employee. I mean, I'm just putting the numbers out there.
What would be the number for that? How many employees? What
I
is
think
it?
there's 9.
What was the raise that was asked for?
Got 9 employees.
Not on the manager's side.
They originally asked for $50,000, which
Again,
is a lot of money.
Well, of course,
I'm
but-
not disagreeing. It's a
Again-
lot of money.
I appreciate, I know their expertise, I understand wholeheartedly.
It's probably going to be
But
some
I'm
middle
one,
ground though.
if you give to one, you have to give to them all, or give to none.
That's what
But
we're saying.
but we are giving to all.
We're
That's
giving
why
it-
I'm
we're
saying,
possibly giving it
we're
3
paying
different
fire, we're
units.
paying
And you-
police,
you're in a situation right now where every nickel and dime means something. So, just my opinion.
What's the amount you were thinking, John?
I'm sorry?
What was the amount that you were thinking?
I mean, I think,
I'm not in
even
favor
if
of
we,
50.
even if we gave $1,000 stipend, there's 9 individuals, it'd be $9,000. Which, in my opinion, is far less than we should be giving them, but given the situation,
It's $90 a month.
I think it's reasonable.
Yeah, they probably deserve more than that, but I would be in favor.
Absolutely
I would be,
deserve
I would
more
be,
than
I would
that.
be in favor of that.
Absolutely
I would be
deserve
in
more
favor
than
of
that.
that.
I mean, it's a drop in the bucket, really.
Councilman Licciardi?
I agree that they're, and I've said it before, that to have a master's degree and make $30,000 is insulting. And I didn't spend a lot of time in there to cut because I want to make cuts at all. But I'm looking at the big picture, and we don't have a hell of a lot of money here. I'm gonna go back to the same thing I was talking about earlier. We sat here and we had 2 corrective action plans, in 6 months, after we just voted on the budget. No, and we're cutting, I'm making proposed cuts now. If that was the case, then I wouldn't have made any of those.
Well,
So, no, I'm not. I'm looking to get back on track, and I'm gonna listen to Ernie, get back on track. Hopefully we can, I wasn't here for the 5-year plan. I don't know what was discussed. I've heard many different things from many different people about what was promised, what was told, emails that were sent. I wasn't here for any of that. The way I understood it was, if you have this going forward, this is what you stick to get out of this hole. And part of what I'm seeing is it wasn't stuck to. So I don't want to do another 5-year plan. I'm not asking for that. I understand what you're saying, 1 year at a time. But I think this is a critical year as a step to next year. So,
Just
it's
one-
hard to be long-winded, but
One thing I want to
can't do
point
it.
out, and is your salaries, but there's one line item I don't see in the library whatsoever, and that's overtime. I don't think they work overtime, and so what they make at $30,000 a year is what they're taking home. I will say there's not too many departments that don't have option for overtime in the town. Police, fire, municipal, they all have options for overtime. Some clerks don't, I understand that. But, I agree that having a master's degree, and when this was brought to our attention a couple of years ago, and me personally, I'd like to see the library open even longer, and that's what his goal was. Out of the 50,000, I personally would like to see 20,000 put in there for that, but that's just my opinion. And that's just because if you look at where we were 3 years ago and where we are now, we're a couple $100,000.
So what would the 20,000? It wouldn't necessarily go towards salary, or what would it go towards?
Be his decision.
More
Be
out.
the director's decision at that point. I would like to see it for opening, but I think he would rather see it for salary. And in my opinion, and we've said it all these years, Angelo, If nobody's getting a raise, nobody's getting a raise, okay? But this year, police, no hidden secret, was awarded, okay? And at that point, my opinion changed.
We didn't give it, the judge gave it.
The judge gave it, but you know what? It's time that if they got it from the judge, then the fire can probably
Well,
get
the
it from the
different-
judge. So why don't we, so we'll probably save on lawsuits and litigation, so we're better off not going retro and going into next year's budget.
So you're
instead
gonna
of
have to spend
last
for
year's,
litigation sooner or later.
right?
I mean, don't say we're
But
not gonna
again,
spend it.
And at that point, you're getting 2 out of 3 unions. I personally think the third union deserves one also. And that's just my opinion, the town manager put that in the budget, and, you know, this budget has to pass though. I mean, plain and simple. It has to be discussed with the unions, and, you know, if that money's budgeted now, but if the budget gets voted down, that money's not there. We have to figure out, we have to cut $2 million, and that's 500,000 right there.
The difference with the, as far as this money, the 20,000, let's say you pick 20,000 as a number, like that's not something that's guaranteed for the next year, as opposed to different things when we raise, correct?
Well, if he came level funded.
They
he'd
have
get-
to look at the future,
have to
the
stay level
employees.
funded?
You can't buy them off for a 1% raise to pass the budget.
Not buying them off.
Getting buffaloed again,
How's that buying them
buying
off?
because you're gonna get it this time and next time we're taking.
Year after year after year.
John, where you been? I've been here
I got a
12
question for you
years
then.
saying the same thing.
Councilman, I got a question for you then.
Sure, ask me a question.
You wanna go into contracts right now that they don't have to.
Dave.
So, wait a minute, let me finish. You wanna tear apart the contracts, you've made that clear.
I
okay?
do.
So,
I
that
do?
ends up
Is
to
that
be
what I made
litigation.
clear?
Councilman, and
Wait,
that,
wait a minute. I want to go back. Just like you said, I don't represent my constituents. Maybe you ought to learn how to represent your constituents. Don't put words in my
when
mouth.
did I ever say you don't represent your constituents?
The other day at the budget hearing,
Never said that.
yeah, you said some leadership. I got goddamn good leadership, let me tell you.
So I said.
But
some
anyway,
leadership,
don't
and
ask
you
me no
said,
questions.
vote
I'm
down
not
the budget.
answering you.
All right,
Talk to
don't-
one of your minions.
Okay, so Councilman, you wanna tear apart the budget.
Whatever you say.
You don't have to answer nothing. You don't wanna answer.
I said the contracts need to be opened.
But you
I
said
didn't say I'm gonna
publicly-
tear it apart.
You publicly have said you want to tear the contracts apart, okay?
Did
You
I
have done
ever,
that.
wait a minute, did I ever say I want to tear them apart? I said they need to be opened up.
Okay.
You have to
You said that's right, they have
renegotiate.
to be opened up. But
All
they
right.
can't be opened up right now. So, but only way to
Wow,
open
thank
them
you,
up.
I didn't know that.
So the only way to open them up is do it illegally. So where do we end up in court, okay? So now, you want to take more from the employees by tearing apart the contract, but you're saying I'm buffaloing them by giving them a raise. I'm not buffaloing nothing. I think they deserve it,
Next year,
and it's
when there's
plain and
not an
simple.
election year, we're gonna vote to what?
Hey, Angelo, whether they vote me in or vote me out, that's up to the general public.
That's right.
But you know what? I personally think the employees deserve a raise.
They
Police are
deserved
getting
a
it,
raise 5
fire's
years
getting
ago.
it. Angelo, police is getting it, fire's getting it, and why not municipal?
And how about the taxpayers? Do they deserve a break?
They,
So
and they
let's
did.
go 5
And
ways.
Angelo, you know what? I hate to say it this way, but they did, and he said it. We didn't follow the 5-year plan because we tried to do the best we could for the taxpayer. The 5-year plan called for a 4% tax increase every year. We went 1.7,
Because you kept
1.8.
hiring more department heads, you
But
kept
Angelo,
hiring.
we did not
You
raise the
put in,
taxes.
you put
We-
in positions you didn't need.
All right, I'm-
You didn't put in taxes because it was an election year.
Angelo, the last 4 years has been election year.
No, that's why
I'm
the
putting
taxes
taxes in
went in.
this year. It's an election year. I'm doing what's right for the town. I'm not doing what's right for Dave Goslin. Whether I get elected or unelected,
As long as
that's
you
up
got
to the
your
public.
opinion. You got your
Personally,
opinion.
that's just my opinion. But I'm one vote, as you always say.
All I know is, everybody who supported that 5-year plan and went for the taxes increase, it got a 7 million in a hole.
Yep, and our
And when the
pension-
surrounding communities ask for their money back from the sewer fund, what do you do then?
Figure it out when that time comes, just like we do
I
every
know,
other time.
just figure it out.
So,
What about the money for the fencing for the shelter?
that's in tomorrow's
that's
meeting.
gonna
Is
be
that
tomorrow's
tomorrow?
agenda,
Okay.
yeah.
Tomorrow's
And the other thing is, did the radios for the fire department, did that get
Excuse
added
me,
in?
excuse me, was there a conclusion to the library?
Yeah, we didn't,
Oh, I'm sorry.
yeah, we need to, so what's the amount we're saying? John said 9, you said 20, Dave?
Jay said 0. Angelo said 0. Well, I don't know, Angelo, what'd you say on the library?
Nothing.
0 on the library?
Some probably in between you and John, I'll say 15, somewhere in between there. And then let the, not as a stipend, but let,
Well, I'd like to know where it's gonna go. That's the
well,
question I would have.
you just said where he wants it to go, that's what you said with the 20, correct?
What's that?
He wanted it to go in salaries, so you would assume that's where it would go.
Well, we talked about more hours, and you said it would be up to where he wants it to go, correct?
The whole 50, I think, was included salaries and to bring it open to 4 additional hours. So I imagine whatever we give them, it's not gonna go to keeping it open. That's just my opinion, but, I mean, if you wanna just come up to the mic.
Good
Good evening.
Yeah, the $50,000 I asked for was just for salaries. We do want to be open an extra 4 hours. In order to do that, we need to hire another full-time person, which will be more money, which will be another $40,000 or $50,000. So really, what I'm talking about is to get to where we need to be, it's $100,000. The $50,000, I'm sorry for the misunderstanding about that. The $50,000 was just for salaries. And that was to get us to a point where we could align ourselves with the town, where when salary increases happen to the municipal workers, we can take that same amount for the library workers, and it will actually mean something.
All right. So Jay, you said 0?
We're throwing out some, yeah, I can't.
15?
Angelo?
How many times am I gonna say?
All right. Well, I'm making sure
I don't
I'm
change
clear.
my mind.
Thank you.
If he's willing to do 15, I'll do 15, as long as it goes to salaries.
All right, I'll agree.
Thank you.
Just gotta find out where we're gonna move it from.
Just curious, what's the
Well, there's
percentage
the
on that?
145,000.
Well,
That,
I'll look- I don't know what his per person.
9 people, you said, right?
Is that
So-
9, is that correct?
Is that 9 people?
It's about a 3.5.
I'm sorry, yeah, there are nine full-time people. Those 9 full-time workers are in the union. What they get as their raises is not my decision. It has to go through negotiation with the union. So whatever amount you're able to make available, that then goes into the negotiation process.
Use that. I'll tell you in 1 second. .7% if you went across the board with that dollar amount. On the base, so you take the salaries, take the 15,000 divided by the salaries, and it comes up to 3.7%.
So, a couple things. One, there's the $145,000 savings from the healthcare, the workers' comp. But didn't we also talk about cutting the advertising budget on page 17 under general government by $10,000? Was that discussed?
Yeah.
Yep.
So I mean, that's a possibility to take the money from there, or at least a portion of it. Take 10 from the advertising and take 5 from the workers' comp.
That's only a $10,000 savings, advertising.
Right, but in other words, if we're giving 15, take the 10 and take 5 from the workers'
140,
comp.
Then it leaves you 140, we can take
Right, reduction.
and reduce the budget by 140 plus whatever we added here tonight.
140, what's the exact number, 140?
It'd be 140, actually, 145.77 if we took the 10,000 from the advertising and the 5,000 from the workers' comp, moved it over to the library, that would leave us 140,000 out of the workers' comp, plus whatever we saved here. Now, we have consensus. Kristen has suggested the 140 get moved over to where, Kristen?
To fund the deficit in health, internal service health fund.
Internal Service Health Fund, or do we cut it totally? It's up to you, the council. Jay?
Where would it go again?
We have an internal service fund where our healthcare costs are running through, and that is running a deficit. So at some point, we have to, we're kicking the can down the road, we're gonna have to pay that eventually.
What's the
We
deficit?
do that good. We're good can kickers.
What's the deficit, Kristen?
It was 1.2 million, the school has paid up their portion, so it's about 400,000 right now. That's, without the shares, which we're heading towards another.
So the question is, do you move it there or move it here? Councilman Lashardi?
We're gonna have to fund it at some point, right?
Is there a timetable for that? Because if we're still in the deficit, I'm not saying we shouldn't move it there, but is there a timetable for how long we have to do
The
that?
Auditor General's watching it very closely. Every
So-
meeting we have with them, they're asking what we're doing about it.
So we're running a deficit now with this. Next year, we're gonna be running a future deficit with this, right? It's just gonna keep getting,
Well,
Well, we're self-insured, and it depends on how the claims are running, but the claims
Claims are running high.
higher than what we're using, what the budgeted.
so is it possible, I just wanna follow you with this. If we have to come up with that, will we have to come up with that money in one shot?
I don't know if they would micromanage us to that point, the Auditor General's office, but they are watching it very closely.
What would be
Okay.
your recommendation?
Well, my
To
point,
move this 140 there is your
I would think
recommendation?
that's a good start, absolutely.
What'd you say it's at right now?
400.
Yeah, about 400,000.
I mean, that's 1/3.
you waiting for a response from me?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
all right.
Oh, I'm just, it's concerning because it just seems like I'm thinking long-term, thinking beyond my time on the council, beyond 2020. I'm thinking like 2030, when there's gonna be a whole new, fresh council up here, dealing with the similar issues that we're dealing with. And we're gonna have a lot of this, hopefully, the same employees out here. I don't know, but it's, I'm just thinking of your pensions, honestly. I'm thinking, is the money gonna be there when you need it? That's all. So, I don't know, to answer it, we owe so much to everywhere else, right? Yeah, let's cut it down.
Jay?
Y'all agree with Kristen? Move it over there.
Angela?
Yup, one less can to kick, put it in.
John?
Yes.
Okay, yes it is. Move it over. 140, 577.
So where, this is just, I just want to ask this before I lose my train of thought. If, all right, we're right now giving a third back to that. Where's the intention of funding the whole thing? Where are we going to get that money from?
Right now, the budget has an 8% increase from what's currently budgeted for healthcare. Ideally, again, once we're stabilized, which, again, this budget does, as we look forward, we would take whatever the recommended amount and add to it. So if a recommended amount is 12%, a budget year, we could budget 16% or so. So it depends on the budgets going forward. Ideally, you would take what you believe you're going to spend plus an additional amount. And if that holds true, then the additional amount will go into this internal service fund and start reducing that amount that's owed. And again, with self-insurance, I mean, it depends. If you have a good year, then that can be done. If you have a bad year, well, then you can't do that. So again, it depends upon the year, it depends upon the amount of claims, because it's always claims driven. So ideally, you would budget in future years what you expect plus more. And that's how you move that down.
We gotta look at our
Thanks.
healthcare plans.
Correct.
How to modify, how to bring those costs down, how to keep people from going to the doctors when they sometimes might not have to, self-treat. We're looking at programs like that right now,
Right,
self-treatment programs, like a Concentra instead of going to, Rhode Island Hospital or something like that. That's just things that Councilman D'Amico, myself, and the town manager have been discussing, working on, meeting with different insurance companies, trying to figure out different plans, so we have to try to keep figuring out how to keep healthcare costs. There's no hidden secret. Healthcare and pensions are the most expensive part of our budget. I mean, if you look, the pension is, right now, is gonna be close to $10 million combined with everybody. That's 1/3 of our budget. 1/3. Now, 3 years ago, it was probably 1/8, because we're only putting 1.5 million. And if we continued going that way, and that's, you gotta look at that, we continue going that way, it wouldn't be there today. It's not perfectly funded now, but it's much better off than 5 years ago.
Do you have any other questions? from the
That's it,
library?
thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I know near and dear to the young lady in the front row is the dog pound. We had some discussion.
Animal shelter.
I mean, the animal shelter, I'm sorry, I keep calling it the wrong thing. The animal shelter itself, we had some discussions about that. We just wanted to correct some line items. Did you correct those over the last?
I wanted to make sure there was a consensus. So the outstanding items I have are suggestion to increase the revenue line for animal fines and fees from 0 to 3,000. Increase by the animal shelter fines and fees from 0 to 3,000, because there's no budget in there right now. Also to increase the animal shelter supplies, I believe it's at 8,000 to 11,000, so that would actually be budget neutral, 3,000 in revenue, 3,000 in expenses.
Yep.
And then we had more discussion for the part-time ACO.
Which we should remove that because it's not there.
I just need to know if there's a consensus on
Oh,
that.
it's not there, we should remove it, and that's
Okay.
simple. Now, in the budget, I know the chief had, I think it was 30,000, and it was supposed to be split between the gun range and the animal shelter. But tomorrow night, we're taking 15,000 out of this year's budget, out of the parks supplies, which is supposed to be for the community event, which we didn't have this year, and we're gonna move it towards the fencing. So is there anything that we?
Well, this is the money from last year's event we didn't have.
This year, we're in this
This
year.
current budget.
I'm sorry, that's what I mean, for the current one, not for next year, correct.
So I have a whole section on capital items that need to be addressed. Do you wanna do these for police and then jump over to capital and then we can just
Then we can tackle that?
Yeah.
Okay. What page are we on for capital here?
Capital.
34.
You want the capital first?
Yes, please.
So, there's a suggestion to reduce the police capital by 15 for the, for tomorrow night's discussion. Also, the adjustments to the fire, where there's a difference of about $9,800 from what he originally, from Chief Barris proposed, adding radios of 12,800, but then the boiler repair dropped to 9,000. So the difference was 9,800 in the fire capital. That wasn't included in what he originally asked for. So
So
it's a decision on,
right now in the budget, it's 44.3. You're looking for
he was looking for another
54?
9,800, yeah.
54.1. All right, wanna come up?
But then we took out that, what was it, the heart monitor? The camera, thermal imaging camera.
Yeah, chief, you're 60,000
Includes the thermal imaging camera.
and it says 44,300, so I'm just trying to figure out, that's,
So
$16,000.
his original would have been with the thermal imaging camera and the difference in the two items, the radios and the reduction of the boiler, his would have been the 60,600 or whatever it was, 60,400. Once we went to the manager stage, we dropped the thermal imaging camera, so the manager should.
No, can I just ask a question? Didn't we leave money in there
For the thermal imaging.
for the thermal
I thought
imaging on the provision of getting the grant? Didn't we leave 1,300 in?
There was a lot of discussion that night, but no consensus.
I thought
I
there
thought
was
we
a
agreed to
consensus.
that.
I thought there was a consensus for that.
I think the consensus was keep the thermal imaging cameras in there. I know I personally use them, and in a smoky building, I couldn't see the chief from here or there. But if I use that thermal imaging camera, I could see Chief McGarrow sitting there back there. So I think that's a huge safety thing for our men and women of the fire department. Well, no women, but men of the fire department, and for our residents. You know, especially when a burning building or a smoking building, every second counts in there if they can get you out.
Chief, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
In your rescue fund that you have, is that, can you utilize, could you purchase other items out of that rescue fund?
Yes.
I mean, it's not the ideal situation. I get it, and I know why it was set up.
It's
And I,
set up for apparatus.
all right.
We should hold.
I'm trying to think a
we
little
should
outside
hold
the box
steady
here. If
to-
you need like
no,
an extra
when-
10,000, you know,
For instance.
for the cameras.
We are buying, we have a truck coming in, granted, we did get $336,000 for, grant for it, but the truck is gonna come with equipment on it.
Right.
So, a lease payment will take care of the difference with that truck with the equipment on it. Because you can't buy a stripped truck, and our old equipment from the 1971, not compatible, not
Okay.
couplings and all that, so, new equipment should come with it. In NFPA standards, we have to have a lot of equipment come on the truck. That's
Okay.
where we get that equipment. To just say, let's buy an axe, it's not what the fund is for.
All right.
Or the fund won't be sustainable.
All right. All right. Thanks.
Do you have anything that you're decommissioning or anything that you can possibly make some money off of? Vehicles or anything like that?
Well, I have the ladder trucks all spec'd out, ready to go. There'll be a ladder truck we could cash in once we get the new truck, but that'll be a year from now, if you approve the truck. Say, it takes a year to build a truck. Right now, our fleet is in the best shape it's ever been since the mid-90s, when they did buy a few pieces of apparatus.
No, your department has said that.
And the days of running with a 1971 truck finally is over. With a little help from some grants and the men next door and the council helping, that's where we are. Keep
Alright,
trying to
so
progress.
Where are we with the capital on here then? You're asking for how much?
My request was $60,600, which included $6,500 for a thermal imaging camera, $12,800 for two dual band portable radios, which is part of our 5 to 10 year replenishment plan that the Colonel and I told you about a couple of weeks ago. The server, we have a 7-year-old server that needs to be replaced. That's $22,300. And the heating system, we had a quote for Station 2 at $9,000. That's just a quote right now, because I had to give you something. That was a legitimate quote from a company.
Kristen, what'd you say you had cut out of there?
So we have removed.
Oh, and $10,000 for building improvements for all the stations.
We've removed the thermal imaging camera, and then we have the lack of communication on the
That was-
radios and the reduction in the boiler system. So right now I have 44,300 in there, and it's 10,000 for building improvements, 12,000 for the heating system, and 22,300 for the server. So I can reduce right now the heating system down to 9, because he's already saying it's the quote of 9. And then it's up to you if you wanna do the thermal imaging and the radios, if you wanna add those in.
And as Councilman D'Amico said, I did apply for a grant
I think we,
for thermal imaging cameras, but it's not,
I think our overall consensus was giving you the coverage of the grant, which was 13.
10%, right? Yeah.
we put in for two thermal imaging
So
cameras.
$1,300.
Yeah.
13,000.
And it'll be
13,000.
Wait, but how much is the percentage of the grant would it cover?
If we
10%.
If we win an award for the grant, our share would be 10%.
So-
Didn't
the
we
total.
say we put in enough for the grant, but but if he
No,
didn't get the grant, he would still be able to get one, wasn't that?
No, there wouldn't be enough, there would only
Wouldn't
be
be enough.
$1,300.
Okay. All right,
So-
all right.
As of right now, how many of those cameras do you have online?
We have 4. 3 newer ones, one older one and one truck without one.
I mean, it'd be crazy if we got the grant and he didn't have the money in the account. I'd at least cover the grant, the 10%.
What do you think the chances of getting the grant? You have no clue, you have no idea.
Sometimes I think we're not gonna get it, and,
You get it, you
well,
know.
we got $336,000.
So we need to put aside 1,300. Is that correct?
That will cover, if we get the grant, the 1,300 will cover that.
I would agree.
Yeah, put it-
Cover the grant.
Talking
because-
$1,300 with all this money that we're looking at
Yeah.
right now, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm for that.
You have to hold off on the radios for a year. Unless the council approves the radios. Jay, what are you asking for the radios again?
It was 12,800.
12,800 for the radios.
I believe where we were last time was the 1,300 and everything else stayed. Check the date.
I'm gonna ask, I know the answer, I'm sorry, but can you skip a year without with the radios? I know what you're gonna say, I know what
I
you're
say
gonna
no. The radios are safety items also.
I know.
Well, everything in your department is.
It is,
Yeah.
it is, and I told you I came here, this is the lowest request I've had in my 10 years here.
So with keeping the radios and the
Knowing
money
what
for
our
the money for the
situation
grant,
is.
there's a chance we still get both things with the grant. If we give you the money for the grant for the,
The radios aren't covered.
That's just
no,
for
I understand
thermal
that, but if we give them the money for the radios plus the money towards the grant for the masks,
There's no masks.
the sonar, the cameras, I'm
Thermal
sorry.
imaging camera.
The cameras, the thermal imaging cameras, I
This
apologize.
is separate from that.
I
These
understand.
radios are separate.
I understand. But if we give them that money, plus we give them the money towards the grant for the sonar imaging cameras.
It's either give me the $6,500 for the thermal imaging camera. If I get the grant, I only
No.
have to use 1,300 of it, and
I
the rest
understand.
stays in. We
Yeah.
don't spend it on
I
anything else.
I understand,
Or cut the 6,500, just put the 1,300 in, and I pray that we get the grant.
yes.
I say put the 1,300 in,
Correct.
you get the grant, you get it. If you don't,
That's
it's
fine.
1,300.
I
Yes.
think that
Chief,
we
when
have-
would you- when you-
Look at that consensus, we just want the consensus.
Roughly,
on
when
that.
I
would
know.
you know?
The radios.
Is this like
I don't
a
know.
summer or
For that.
fall?
I don't think they'll start, there's like 30, 40 rounds of, every week they'll start notifying departments what their awards are, whatever their requests are.
Okay.
I believe that may start later September.
Okay.
I didn't know about our truck till the end of the period. I'm saying we're not gonna get it, and next thing I know, I got a letter of, congratulations on your award,
Okay.
which would have been like late November, something like that, last year.
Yea or nay on the radios?
I prolong the radios for another year.
Jay?
I'd split it with one. Would one? I mean, I know you, I know. I
I've
know
al-
you
I-
need
I've
two.
already, I've already
You
said
brought
my
in two,
piece.
I know you need
It's in
two.
your hands.
I know, thanks.
So,
No, I know. I would say go with one.
Hello? I can't hear anybody. Hello, the second radio.
No one answered.
I'll say yes to two.
Oh, no, I'm thinking it's one, it's one radio with,
Sorry.
am I missing this? You're asking for one radio to go along with the other radios you have, correct?
I'm asking for two to go along with the radios I have.
How many radios do you have?
How many
now?
radios do you have? Yeah.
Every frontline piece has, radios. I believe it's engine two, we have
So
not
if you-
replaced
if you
the
would get-
older radio. I think it's engine two, I could be wrong on which, engine we have to
So if
replace.
you get one radio, you'll still be able to contact all the other radios that you have, correct?
We're trying to replace two older radios. That's in our 10-year
Do
plan.
those old radios work?
Yes.
They do.
Let's wait till they break. That's my opinion,
I agree.
but I'm only one. Jay?
I said one.
Jay?
Say yes to two.
1, 2. I wait till they break.
I'll say a half of one.
Can I just ask one more question?
Sure.
So, a lot of times radio technology changes. Like, for example, the scanners years ago you could buy for $99 at Radio Shack, then all of a sudden they started with this trunking. So you couldn't purchase a radio for $99. If you wanted to listen in, you had to spend probably $500. Is this technology changing where we have to update it for some specific reason, or can we get by with another year?
Like, I know personally the server, you not too much longer
Well,
on
the
that.
server has to be changed. We know that.
Plain and simple.
We know
But
that.
if the radios are working and they're working well with the others, at this point, we're not just gonna, unless you got a resale value on them that's gonna be astronomical, I think we wait till they break, because I can tell you now, even if you take them out and you scrap them, what are you gonna get for them? Right now, they're in working condition, let's wait till they break.
Can't get anything from them.
Exactly, so get as much, if we get one more year out of it, we got $12,800 or whatever out of it. That's my opinion. I hate the penny pinch like this, Chief, where everybody's bickering about $1 and something that's working perfectly fine, I don't wanna throw away, just because we think it's good to replace it. If they weren't working, I agree with you wholeheartedly, but right now they're working. I'm one guy
It's
though.
whatever the council's choice is.
So he said one, he said two,
I'm gonna vote on one.
one, none, now you, two to one on the one.
Dies.
No, well, 2 to 1 on the one.
Motion dies.
No, 2 to
Vote
1 on.
dies.
You
Huh?
got 2 with 0, 2 with 1, and only 2 sticking out by itself, so.
What did you vote?
I voted for,
Two.
yeah, two of them,
Two.
so we can hear each other when we're talking.
They
all
can
hear each other.
I know, I
Councilman.
get it.
You got the joke.
I understand. Well, I'd like to repeat them so people can understand the joke, because the audience wasn't as receptive as I thought. Just you.
So it's none.
Right now, we're down to 1.
How are you down to one? You
Well,
didn't get 2
3
votes.
people want to give something. I gotta give them a choice. Does Councilman Messier want to go to
I'll
1?
I'll vote for one then.
Do they want to go to 2?
My gut says 2, but I'll go with 1 so we can at least get 1.
And I get 2 with 1, 2 with 0.
So you're getting 1. Thank you, Chief.
Well, while I'm up here, can I speak as Joe Barris, 54 Service Road, West Warwick?
You absolutely can.
Are you speaking on the budget?
Yeah. Well, no, actually, actually, there is one question I want to ask. Councilman, you did bring up about the 5-year plan and the 4% tax increase each year that was not followed. Do we know where we would be if it was followed?
Well,
I never heard that.
5 million in a hole instead of 7.
I never heard
No, we
what the,
would have- we
what the
would've- we
total
would've
would
got-
be.
Figure it out.
we would have got almost $7 more million in revenue, compounded over 4 years.
And the other question was
But
on the
every
budget, and I
1%
can't
is
answer
close
that. I
to a
can't
million.
ask that question, so. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
One cam. I mean, not one, well,
One radio.
1 radio and
And money, and
10% of the grant.
So that fire capital actually went down 1,060.
How much, Kristen?
The
It went
request
down
for capital
1,060.
for fire went down $1,060 with those changes.
Next.
So it's just down to the 15,000 for the police capital. Do we wanna take that out tonight in anticipation of tomorrow night?
I mean, I think the overall consensus of the council was we're gonna take it out for this year for 15,000, so unless there's a lot more work that needs to be done that we don't know about, and, you know, is the 15,000 gonna cover the fence repairs down there, is the question.
I don't know if I can even address this now, but
Well, you can address,
Well,
if you know what the
Lori's here.
cost is.
yeah. So I did speak with Lori. I went down there and checked out the shelter, and she got a quote. Now this was 4 years ago, so the quote could be different at this point. Was 22,000. Of course, it would have to go back out to bid again at this point. But I know I spoke with Councilman Licciardi, and I have some extra money in my ward fund where I'd be willing to give 5,000 towards that to get us closer to that number. So at least if that would put us to 20,000, it would bring us closer to that amount. Just so you're aware of that when we come up to that tomorrow.
So do we cut the 15 now?
I would say yes.
Jay?
Yeah.
Angelo? John?
Yes.
So that'd be a yes.
Yes.
Is that it for capital?
I think there was also a discussion of reducing the backflow preventers. You have that already? Okay.
Is that on your capital?
No, that was in the DPW budget, wasn't, or did he have, no, that was capital.
It was capital. I
Never
know
mind.
there was a discussion, 25,000 was budgeted for those 2 service lines, and there was discussion that, it should be less, because some people have been doing that at a lesser cost. I think it was 5,000, talked about reducing it, but I could be wrong. Okay, so we'll make that change. Or-
Is there anything else we talked about? I think we covered everything as far as, Chris, anything else we can recall?
Quickly doing something, so for the 25,000 for the backflow installation, we're reducing that to
20,000.
20,000.
Oh, my notes.
So, we went over the boat pickup, we went over that.
For some reason,
Did we come to a consensus on the part-time for the overtime for the parks? Were we gonna leave it at 55, or were we gonna reduce it?
we're gonna monitor it closely and keep it where it is.
Because I have to get all those disclosure stuff, when will we make a determination?
Well, no, we're
It'll
gonna
be
keep
adopted.
it that
Are you
way.
gonna keep it at 55?
Adopt it,
Yes.
but we wanna make sure
Right.
we're monitoring that closely.
Okay.
I know I have in the town council, the video streaming, at 6,400 circled, and I think you have an update for us on that? Why it's only at $1,542 to this time?
Invoices have been sent to the town, but for some reason, they didn't make it their way down to finance. So I requested the invoices, and now they'll be paid, and the amount budgeted is.
Where it should be?
Yeah.
So 6,400 stays where it is.
Good question. Kristen, on the liability insurance,
Yep.
should that be lowered?
The combination of the 140 was the liability, the drop in the liability
Both?
and workers'
Okay.
comp.
HR is done. Capital we just covered. Anybody from the public discuss anything that we haven't covered here tonight, or you want to bring up? Tom, you want to come up to the mic?
Tom Oates, 6 Colonial Way. Councilman D'Amico, greatly appreciate the idea of a stipend for the folks that serve on different committees and boards in the town. But something to consider, I'm probably going to get shot for this, but in the spirit of volunteerism in this community, we have so many people that do so much great work and volunteer. I was shocked to find out that some of these committees are compensated meagerly, it's gas money basically, but approximately how much? I think the question was asked, how much
I think,
comes out of the budget to pay those folks?
well,
I can go through.
you have 5 people on a committee usually, and they're getting paid, like planning and zoning, $50 for the evening. And then you would multiply it by most likely 10, because they don't necessarily meet every single month. I think on average, they probably meet about 10 times a year.
So, a wild
but then-
ballpark.
Well, like, for instance, Board of Canvassers, it's on page 12 on the budget. Their overall salaries, it's, actually, I'm sorry, it doesn't show it that way.
Well, regardless, my point is that with so many people that do so much for this
That's actually
community,
department.
you know, one would think, you know, how much money the town actually pays out for this, and consider the idea of maybe a volunteer appreciation where the council takes all these people that volunteer their time each month to these boards and committees, take them out for a dinner, a volunteer appreciation night, or something like that, and eliminate. I know we're talking huge money with everything else here tonight, and I know this is only nickels and dimes, but like my grandfather said, nickels and dimes add up to dollars, and chipping here and there, there's, you know, something to consider. Like I said, I had no idea that some of these committees and boards were compensated for their time. And I don't want to take anything away from anybody, jobs, salaries, or anything like that, but it's something to consider. We do have some great volunteers in this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Tom.
I did have one more thing. Just wanted to readdress, when the housing board, the Manhattan Housing Board spoke, didn't he mention something about the tenant board of affairs, the $4,800? Didn't he mention they weren't meeting?
They have, I wanna say,
said
have
they
not met in
eliminated.
ages.
He did, right?
Yeah, he did say eliminate.
He did.
So a consensus, but I can.
Well, it's still a board, and if they show up and they schedule a meeting, we just gotta confirm what's going on with that board.
Okay.
All of a sudden, they show up and they meet and have a discussion. So, I know Joe Machado is one individual who serves on that board. He lives in Clyde Towers. He's been unable to attend meetings. They only get paid if they attend. That's also, to be clear. Even zoning and planning, am I correct, Tracy?
Yeah,
Do they get paid if they don't show up?
yeah, they do.
No,
No, no, they don't.
no, it's based on the
I think
meetings.
They do. I was on the planning board. I think it was $25 whether you showed up
No,
or not.
no, because I was on zoning recently,
Unless they
and
changed that.
if we didn't go, we didn't get paid.
Yeah, I think it's by attendance.
Yeah, because what about the alternates? Do they get paid, or does the alternate get paid?
I'll
money
tell
No,
you,
the
Tracy-
alternate- the alternate
Tracy,
also
look-
got paid.
Look into that, because if I,
I don't know why you're asking me to look at.
Well, because
Oh,
I'm
that's
sorry,
right.
you're on the zone,
That's
you're
right.
on
I'm
those
on the
meetings.
pension board.
Pension, that's right.
Yeah, just the clerk of the pension board, and the pension board does not get paid.
Okay.
I was trying to remember when I did payroll, or whatever, when you're asking.
yeah, I remember, you got
They
paid.
hand them in with,
I think
whoever
planning
they
does, I
found.
know zoning.
Who gets that, who has that answer, Ernie? Mark.
That's
No,
right.
Elaine is.
Yeah, Elaine will have it.
I'm sorry, yeah, I had the wrong person.
Zone gets paid.
Just email.
Board of Canvassers is
I
on
had
that
you
list.
confused.
Dave.
That's all right.
Had a long night. It's,
They put payrolls 3,500 per board.
We're so used to seeing you on a planning and zoning that we figured you were still there. You never were the
no, she's
secretary?
never been, no, that's Elaine.
Oh, that's right.
That's why I said I got them mixed up. That's what I did. I'll be honest, that's what I did.
I thought the same thing.
Any other comment from the council? Any public comment? Okay, Kristen, can you tell us?
No, Mary had her hand raised.
Oh, I didn't see her.
Yeah. She's been so quiet over there, so.
So is it safe to assume that the facilities manager proposal is no more, or
I
where is
spoke,
that
no,
at?
I spoke with Ernie about that over the weekend. And because most of that, I'm looking for that for the enterprise fund, that's something we can talk about at that time. Because I wasn't looking for that to come out of the operating budget. So, because both budgets are intertwined, which is still, I still feel difficult to deal with, I'm looking for that salary to come out of the Civic Center budget and to oversee the animal shelter, just like I had said before. But we had talked about some different options with that, but I don't really want to go into, I didn't bring it up because I don't want to go into that tonight. It's something for when we get the Civic Center budget, which will be in late May, June.
Yes, the budget will be submitted, I believe, at the present time. I think it's the second meeting in May, but I'll verify that.
So right now, it's a dead issue on this budget.
Right.
Well, you know, the last couple of meetings that I came to, in fact, I think it was in the letter that I addressed to you on the 19th. Trying to sort through too much. But that, well, the quote was something like, we need to make up the difference. The other thing is, between last meeting and this one, Mary Young, by the way, and I want to raise that too. You know, a lot of times you have public employees come up to speak and you know who they are, but maybe the people in the seats don't, or the people that are watching the video. Anyway, that was one of the things about we have to make up the difference. And in watching the May 2nd Civic Center meeting, you, President Goslin, commented that it's basically self-funding, a pretty basic budget, and former town manager Fred Presley indicated that the surplus would go into the cost repayment until it's paid up, and that there was good progress being made there, but I think it's still about a $140,000 deficit.
Well, last year, I don't have the numbers in front of me for that particular budget, but this year, it's projected to be in the black for ice rink and field house.
Yes, yeah.
And again, that was something else that came out of the rainy day fund. And that needs to be slowly paid back. It's obviously, you can't take it all back in 1 year.
Correct.
Because there's some improvements that need to go on up there, especially for events. Councilman Licciardi used it 1 year for the Easter egg hunt, and he couldn't get any audio or anything. It was hard to yell. So our sound system up there, people have talked about coming in and possibly doing concerts or whatever, but to make money, you gotta spend money, so you gotta make some improvements up there. At that point, so we gotta figure out, how much you're gonna pay back, how much is gonna go into capital, whatever up there. And the same thing with the ice rink, how do you rent it more, keep it open in summer months and keep it fully rented? Those are the things that we need to work on. I'm just looking for an email that was sent to me from Kristen.
Well, I guess I'm going to have to say what I have to say, and you can tell me to stop if it's going to be kicked down the road to, I know the budget, and I don't understand that either, that the budget for the Civic Center only is dealt with in June.
It's because it's an enterprise fund. It's kind of like this, even though the sewer budget's coming before us tomorrow, it's an enterprise fund, and their budget's totally separate from our budget. And when we took over the ice rink, years ago, that was in our budget. And when it was in the red, at times it was in the red of $500,000. And that money would come out of this budget. And the council, when we decided to take it back and not privatize it again, we said it can't cost the taxpayers money. It needs to make money. It needs to have its own budget and not let this budget or any other department subsidize for that department. So we wanted to make it successful. And in 2006 to 2008, 9, I forgot when did they privatize that? 8? Somewhere in there. 2006, 2005, 2006 budget, when I first came in, it was in the red, 400,000, 200,000, 300,000, and that was being funded. Then the council decided at that time, we're gonna try to privatize it. At that time, we were receiving 120, well, the first contract, it was about 40,000 a year. The second contract was 125,000 a year. But things went south up there. The town had to take it over. We work on a mothball. Those two buildings, from March, actually, I'm sorry, start from October, November till March, April, the field house is utilized by soccer, softball, whoever, it's constantly rented, basketball, and then in the hockey rink's always busy. I mean, if it was up to me, I'd put a second hockey rink up there. We'd have no problem renting out the ice. We have people begging us now to come in. We wish we had more hours. We just don't. So through the history of that, in a short history lesson, like I said, when we took it back, we wanted to be self-sufficient and not fund it out of this budget.
Okay. Your meeting tomorrow night is a regular council meeting?
Yes.
And I'm aware I don't know what time it is. I think
Our
what
meeting
I'm,
starts at 7
Yeah.
tomorrow. 6:30 will be the sewer budget meeting. Our regular council meeting starts at 7.
and obviously there'll be time for public comment.
Absolutely, right at the end.
Okay, I think what I'm gonna do, because,
Executive session.
since Friday, or on Friday, the Human Resources Director was kind enough to send me some of the job descriptions, and it relates very much to the facilities manager thing. So maybe what I'll do tonight is leave it with you, like you got nothing else to do till tomorrow night, and then maybe bring it up for discussion at that time.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
No one will ever accuse you of not being
Thank you.
prepared, Mary.
Mrs. Young, you're very well prepared.
Thank you very much.
Jim, I forgot to give you this one. So I forget to include you in the email. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary. Well, we're gonna be discussing this tomorrow, right?
Thank you.
Oh, she wants you to review it, then she's gonna bring it up tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Mrs. Young. Any other public comment?
Motion,
Hearing none.
motion
No,
to,
hold on. Kristen, where do we stand as of right now in this budget?
So total appropriation budget is $97,015,190. Looking at 3.22% of the levy, with a 3.30% tax increase across the board.
Now, I was just looking I spell your first name wrong all the time. Can you spell your first, is it K or C?
Okay.
That's, well, I'm looking for your email. I know
When did I send that? Sent it on Friday? Did I?
No, it was before.
What's today? Thursday?
yeah. I have it, so, what I asked Kristen to send over, because we have a, tiered tax system, and I know I just, I got all the responses, but except for the last one.
I'll just resend it. Tax rates.
I must have deleted it. You sending it now? Right. So what I asked Kristen to do was give me scenarios at percentage of tax increases, 6 family and above. So I had 3 different scenarios. 1% on residential, 1% on single family and 2 family owner occupied, and 1% on business, and then where that would leave the rest. I don't see it working, personally. Then I also asked for 2%. 2%, and I'll send this over to the council. So if we went 1% on the residential primary and 1% on the businesses, that would put 3 family and above at 9.75. 6 family and above, 9.75, intangibles at 9.75. Now, this has changed a little bit because the budget dropped by 0.25%. Now, at 2%, it would be 2% for residential, 2% for business, and 5.25% across the board for 3 family, 4 family, and 6 family above. Or you have the option of 3.22, whatever, 03 or whatever it is that Kristen said, across the board. I will say the first one, 1%, puts like $4 on the tax rate on multifamily homes. You know, so you're seeing, you know, Royal Mills could see, depending on what the valuation is there, could be extravagant per se. where at the 2%, it's at $2 per thousand for the multifamily, 6-family and above. But this is just options I'm throwing out to the council. I just have Kristen run those numbers. It's whatever, I mean, and personally, I think whatever we decide on, we need to let the public know. We shouldn't, I know normally we wait till after the budget passes that we set the levy and set the rates. I think we should have the rates set prior to, and we gotta.
Well, it changes. I mean, we can do an approximate, but
Yeah.
right up until we certify, the numbers are being updated, so it's usually within a couple of pennies.
And so that's my question. If you wanna go straight across the board, equal with everybody, or if you wanna lessen the burden on some and others, I don't know. We've done it in the past. 3-family really caught it 4 years ago. They caught a 25% tax increase because their rate was brought up to the same as a 6-family, which rightfully so, because they were down at $27 per thousand, and they were brought up to $37 per thousand. It might be off by $1, but it definitely was brought up to 37.95 to be equal with the other 6-family and above. So those are options. I'm just throwing it out there if you want to look at them. I will send this to you, or Kristen can send this to you. You can look at that, and you can determine. Personally, at this point, I mean, we're fighting over $1,000 here, $1,000 there. I personally think let the taxpayers decide at this point. Let it go to vote, and if they vote it up, they vote it up. If they vote it down, they vote it down. And that's just my opinion. You know, I think personally, you know, we get up here and we start bickering and get upset about 5,000, 12,000, and really our big picture is 2 million, 7 million, 5 million, whatever you guys want to decide the dollar amount is, we know what the big picture is. We're never going to get to 2 million. As I said earlier, if you had to do head count to 2 million, it's 20 to 26 positions. I don't think we should decimate this town by reducing 20 to 26 positions. Absolutely not. Public safety would be affected, and our DPW, our maintenance of the town, our assets, it'll all be decimated. I think it'd be crazy to do something like that. That's just, again, my opinion. So, again, we're gonna be voting on the budget going to vote. We're not voting on the budget. When you're voting on the budget, you're voting on the budget in the ballot box. Up here on the council, you're voting to let the voters vote. So that'll be on May 1st meeting to vote to bring it to the taxpayers. That's my opinion. I think everybody did their due diligence as much as they possibly could without getting lawsuits and whatever else, and let the taxpayers decide.
Motion to adjourn.
Mr. Manager, do you have anything?
Oh, sorry.
Closing remarks, anything?
Well, again, this has been a long process. Certainly, the council spent a lot of time reviewing it, discussing it, and you know, those are your decisions. You've given us the opportunity to make our positions and our recommendations, and ultimately, it's up to you as elected officials as to what the budget will be and what's brought forward. So, at this point, I think we said it all, and now it's time to process this and move it forward.
And the only thing we're gonna wait for is an update from Sal also. All right.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you for your attendance. This has probably been the most people I've seen in the crowd at any budget hearing, so thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Have a good night.